about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. So very, very tragic weekend. We learned today of the loss of Sam Neill, Jurassic Park, Hunt for Red October, brilliant actor, and also the loss of Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Lindsey Graham, apparently Saturday night, there was a call to emergency medical services for cardiac arrest. We were being told by his team that he passed that night from an acute and brief illness, suggesting that something happened acutely. So cardiac arrest means his heart stopped. But why did his heart stop? Did his heart stop because of a heart attack, clogged arteries? Did it stop because of an aortic dissection? And it turned out it was an aortic dissection. Aortic dissections, very, very frightening. It took the life of, I believe, Alan Thicke, John Ritter, I think King George II. I have to double check that. But an aortic dissection, it's very, very scary because it's where the main aorta, your aorta, which is the main blood vessel, the wall tears. And the blood that's being pushed through starts to go into that cavity. It's like opening up another lane on the highway. And every car and their mother wants to go into that lane. And then pressure is built up and it causes more of a shearing, more of a tearing. The blood isn't staying in the main lumen of the artery or the main canal of it. Now there's this false lumen, which is not going to do what it's supposed to do, where it sends blood where it needs to go. And eventually the organs, including the heart, don't get the blood to do what it needs to. And you end up dying fairly quickly. Symptoms of this are severe chest pain, difficulty breathing, sweating, and there's not a lot of time. When there is an aortic dissection, it's very frightening, and it's unfortunately usually fatal. To determine if somebody, people always kind of mix up aneurysm with an aortic dissection. An aneurysm you could see sometimes years before. And an aneurysm is where you have a ballooning of the artery. You can have an aortic dissection, an aortic aneurysm in the thoracic, the more chest area, or an abdominal. We see this a lot in smokers, or not a lot, but you'll see it more often in smokers. And so if somebody does smoke, we recommend being screened for aneurysms, which is like a ballooning. And that could eventually cause tearing and perforation. With aortic dissections, you may never know when that tear in the wall will happen. Now, Lindsey Graham did also have arteriosclerosis and cardiovascular disease with plaques. Looks like he did have significant plaques that could predispose him to this. His father had prostate cancer and, from what we understand, died of a massive heart attack. So Lindsey Graham did have heart disease in the family. Risk factors for aortic dissections could be high blood pressure. Being male seems to get this more than females, but females can still get aortic dissections. About 14,000 people a year in America die from this. So it happens. It's rare compared to traditional heart attacks, but when you're looking at tens of thousands, that's still a number too high. High blood pressure, connective tissue disorders like Marfan's syndrome, the hereditary issues, but the linings of the vessels are very delicate. And once those break through, the other linings, now you're splitting that hose in half. You're splitting the wall of that hose in half. The other linings don't have that same integrity as the whole, the strength of all the layers, and it's sad. A lot of conspiracy theories started right after we heard that Lindsey Graham had died, and once I heard that it was acute, a brief and sudden acute illness, I was thinking heart. He had a heart attack or a cardiac event. But interestingly, I don't mind the conspiracy theories. I don't think there being conspiracy theories is always bad. A lot of times it is bad. People, well, it's this, and they go off and they pivot resources, and they pivot the narrative and the conversation, and that could be pretty. I don't like conspiracy theories in that respect. But when people were saying, look, he was just on an overseas trip, now he dies. I don't mind the idea of conspiracy theory, and I think it's because I was in the sciences. So in medicine, they teach you, and in science, to not just look at the obvious. They tell you to, just in case, think outside the box. And if you think outside the box, you open your mind to something else. So like, for example, when that guy, I think his name was Thomas Duncan, died in Texas years ago of Ebola, the first obvious thought was somebody thought he had food poisoning. So they treated him in the hospital for food poisoning, sent him home. If somebody thought outside the box, going, well, wait a second, this could have been Ebola. It wasn't until he went back to the hospital that somebody asked him, have you traveled anywhere? And he had traveled to West Africa. This was, I think, in like 2014. And then they're like, wait a second, this could be Ebola. You have to have those critical thinkers that think outside the box. You have to. Is when Lindsey Graham, when we found out it wasn't aortic dissection, and that's the preliminary medical examiner findings. Very hard to get that wrong. So my guess is that would be probably a part of the final. I mean, there's proof. It's obvious. There's objective evidence of that. But when somebody dies of a heart attack, even though heart attacks are very common and they happen, I understand why some people were saying, look, are we protecting our Americans that are going overseas? Could something, have happened to them? Even though I didn't believe it, I don't really mind when people are at least thinking about that. Because, we have a lot of, naivety, and we have a lot of innocence, and we always kind of think very linearly. Well, this is, we're I'm just going to go here. Everything's going to be fine because this stuff doesn't happen. And I think it is really important for people to know, well, this, things happen. No, nobody killed Lindsey Graham. If he did have an aortic dissection, this is a medical event that happens. He's 71 years old. Sadly, should have never happened, but it does, and it's tragic. But I don't mind people thinking outside the box. But in this particular case, it was a horrific, horrible medical tragedy. And we wish him and his family well. Replacement might be suggested later today by the governor, McMaster. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. The call is free. The consultation is free. And you can speak with a live agent right now. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now to find out if you have a case and how much you could potentially get.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-679-0800. That's 800-679-0800. 800-679-0800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So one thing that really, really frustrates me is I will go online and there will be something that appears to be just a typical website or a typical app, and you can use it for AI, or you could use it to make a picture or logo, or you could use it to find an article, and it's more than a paywall that comes up. It's a trap. So you're clicking and you're working through it, and you're actually going through like your genealogy, like your history. I think that happened. I was doing a genealogy search, and I thought it was connected to a paid subscription I already had. And then finally, when I get to the point where I am about to hit another button to finally reveal the results, they say, okay, you have to pay. And I'm like, but wait a second, why didn't you tell me 17 clicks ago? Well, apparently in New York City, they're trying to ban these subscription traps, or where you start a subscription and then you can't get out of it. So it's transparent pricing and junk fees is what they're attacking. And they say businesses have to disclose full prices up front, including all mandatory fees, addressing hidden costs that average $3,200 per family annually. And so in New York City is going to ban subscription traps and implement a click to cancel rule starting October 1st, making it easier for consumers to cancel automatic renewals. Companies breaking the rules will face civil penalties starting at $525 per violation and may owe restitution to affected customers. This is being reported by Reuters. And so, it's interesting. I really like as little regulation as possible in terms of I like the government staying out of a lot of things. But I got to tell you, I do like consumer protections. I can't tell you how many times I'm on my phone and then all of a sudden some ad comes out or something comes up and I want to exit out. And remember, there used to not be a way and you would be trapped. And something is playing on your computer, or or sadly taking over your some spyware or whatever, and there was no X, and there was a law that came out saying, look, people have to know where that X is. They have to be able to see it clearly, and they have to be able to get out of that ad or get out of that, even if it means they can't continue streaming. But at least somebody has to have an out. And that did take legislation to do. So I'm not, trying to give Mayor Zohran Mamdani any more props because I really don't like the guy. However, they do get credit where the offices of the mayor and the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection Commissioner Samuel Levine is now casting this policy as the first of its kind. It's going to crack down on junk fees, subscription traps, etc. It's called Click to Cancel Rule, and it's going to take place October 1st. Sorry, it doesn't take place sooner than that. I think this should be something nationwide. I don't live in New York, so I would really like to cancel a lot of subscriptions easily. This rule applies also to automatic renewal and continuous service subscriptions that require businesses to clearly disclose subscription terms while providing a straightforward and transparent cancellation process. The junk fee rule requires businesses to advertise the full price of goods and services up front, including all mandatory charges and fees. The hidden fees cost an average family of four $3,200 per year. And as I said, businesses in violation are going to have to pay $525 per violation. So this is something that I think is good. I don't see the other side to allow this. Many of us are overspending. This is why I keep telling you to take a look at your streaming services, take a look at your magazine subscriptions. I remember my husband found that we were still paying years later for a magazine subscription to the medical office that I had closed. The magazines weren't coming. And so they wiped off a year, but this had been going on for a while because nobody thought, because we weren't getting the magazines, they thought, well, it expired after a year and you had to renew it. And the funny thing is consumers are going to complain about this. They're going to say, oh, now I have to remember to renew it all over. I think that protects you because then you can make a decision. Businesses don't like it because they don't want you to have a chance to have an out. If they could catch you and have you on a continuous payment plan, they're going to do that. Luckily, our credit cards expire every few years. For some of us, not till 2030, but then or even longer, 31. Now, I can't believe we're going to be seeing, God willing, the 2030s. See, the 30s make me nervous because in the 1900s, the 30s sucked, right? The 1930s was Dust Bowl and Depression and Nazi Germany rising to power. The 30s was probably one of the worst decades. And so I'm not really excited about the 2030s. Right now, we're in the 2020s, the roaring 20s. And it's roaring, I'm telling you, man. A lot of roaring and drama. So, for those of you worried about money, check your subscriptions, things like that. One thing I also want to warn you guys against are these apps where they say you can make money on the app. Now, I like to play games on my phone, like solitaire, things like that. And I also play Candy Crush. And Candy Crush got to a point where you had to buy gold. And I actually did. I actually bought a little bit of gold here and there because I was at a level and I was very competitive and I wanted to make that extra level, etc. And my husband's like, don't do that. Just play a different game. You like solitaire, go play. And I'm like, well, I need something for the plane when I'm on the long ride. I need something in the potty. So there was this solitaire game. And one of the solitaire games, the most popular one that came up was this one where you get cash. I didn't expect to get cash, but I just wanted to play the game. Well, I clicked on it so I could play it, and then all of a sudden, I get charged $14.99. Why? Why am I getting charged? It didn't say I was supposed to get charged. And I'm watching these ads of these apps where they say you get money for, and so people are like, oh, okay, well, I want to do that so I can make money at home. See, everybody wants to make money without going to work. Listen, trust me, I'd like to make money. But unfortunately, you could be screwed. And they'll say, did you read the terms and agreements? Well, the terms and agreements are a .0075 font that you can barely even see with your reading glasses. It's multiple pages. And in there, it's hidden that they could charge you. No, don't give credit cards. Don't let them access your accounts. None of that. I'm telling you right now, there is no app that I would trust where they say they pay you. If you have a job and they pay you on that app, like with Uber, okay, that's one thing. But make sure it's a vetted company. None of these stupid game apps. We're at a point now where everybody wants to have a side gig. Everybody wants to feel like they're bringing in extra money. I don't mind that drive because it gets people excited. I think the Uber idea was great in one respect, not so good in another. But I thought what was fantastic about that was people who wanted to work during the Great Recession, and that recession spanned many years, and they didn't have a job. They could at least get in their car and make some money by driving people around. Uber and Lyft allowed people who didn't have jobs to still support their family. I think it's fantastic. Was it fantastic in terms of young girls getting into the wrong car and people getting into stranger cars and some bad things happening? That's not good. But the economic aspect of people being able to get up, go to work. If they didn't feel like working, they don't make money. If they feel like getting up and working, they make money. And it was interesting how, people are like, well, look, I want to bring home some money. I want to get some money in my account. So I'm going to get out there and I'm going to log in. This is why telemedicine became so popular. People always ask, they go, Dr. Dahlia, if a lot of doctors don't like the concept of telemedicine because it's kind of antithetical of how you were trained, where are they finding all these doctors? Well, because a lot of doctors who still want to do medicine can still do it. They can do it online. It gives them that barrier where, patients aren't shooting them. I've had a few of my friends shot by patients. And it allows people to get up and say, look, I want to make money, so I'm going to work. If I don't feel like working today, I don't have to work. And so there's a lot. That's kind of the new type of job that people are looking for. But you're not going to be very careful and don't get trapped into these games or these things say, well, you can make bucks on the side, because you're not going to be able to support your family playing solitaire. Okay, that's not going to happen. All right, you're not, I mean, that's just, you're going to need, and you're going to want a steady job. You're going to want benefits. So just some things to think about. But I do agree that we do need to stop these subscription fees and these if media wants a paywall, that's fine. I get that. But to get you trapped in a fee, no. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
Welcome back to the Dr. Dolly Show. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So, I come from a family where my father's side of the family, the relatives would speak multiple languages. Like my grandmother spoke 4 languages. I think she spoke German, Austrian, English, Hebrew, and I believe she even knew some Polish. And she was fluent, although I think it was German and Austrian was counted as one. And she was, sorry, I don't even remember. Okay. See, this is why I need to be bilingual. My grandfather spoke multiple languages. My father did. And learning multiple languages, this time and time again, we keep seeing studies saying that it staves off dementia. Sadly, my grandmother did end up getting dementia, despite her being multilingual. I believe she had multi-infarct dementia from her diabetes and cholesterol and high blood pressure. And she passed in her 70s. But there's definitely benefits to learning a language. And I bring this up because you keep seeing article after article going, well, how to protect your brain. You got to do more crossword puzzles. Or you have to, keep busy. Or you have to be married. Or you have to be, people are like, I don't want to get married. So, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm married. I love being married. But what can you do actively? And we just finished speaking about how people are playing solitaire or these games, trying to make money on the side. If you really want to save yourself some money, you want to help yourself financially, then maybe start learning another language, because if you could stave off some dementia, that's pretty risk mitigating from a financial as well as health standpoint. So here we have another study. I remember years ago, I think it was probably 15 years ago, there was a study saying that people who were bilingual were less likely to have dementia than those who were monolingual. And that made perfect sense. And so, you're going to see, same study, different day, same poop, different day. But in this particular one, they said that this months of language study, just learning, doesn't mean you have to be completely fluent. So, ¿dónde está la biblioteca? Where is the library? Okay, you're going to learn that. If you take any Spanish class, it's going to be all about the biblioteca, the library, for the first few weeks. Don't ask why. Now, it's funny because in school, you had to take Spanish, or you took a foreign language, and I wanted to learn Spanish. And I was like, I guess libraries are really, really big in Mexico. So if I go to Mexico, I guess, I have to, not only go to the museums and all that, and, but go and check out the bibliotecas. But it just, it was just something you have to, but the fact that you're learning that is really working your mind. So it helps your attention, helps your working memory, helps your executive function, especially in older adults. The study was presented at the 2026 Federation of European Neuroscience Societies Forum, and they found that people who spoke multiple languages appeared to have younger brains than those who only spoke one language. Researchers looked at brain activity from hundreds of people in Spain's Basque region that spoke one and four languages, including Spanish, Basque, French, English, and they used artificial intelligence to estimate everyone's brain age based on brain connectivity. And they found that bilingual participants had brains that appeared about 6 years younger than those of the monolingual participants. People who spoke three languages had brains that appeared about 7 years younger. Those who spoke four languages had brains that appeared roughly 13 years younger. The findings also suggested that people who learned a second language earlier in life had and became highly fluent experienced greater benefits. Now, that doesn't mean you're screwed. Okay, it's not too late to find the benefit, but if you're doing brain exercises, you might as well. The reason why I told you guys years ago, I talked about this on air, actually, I think it was last year or the year before. The reason why I recommend Spanish is because we're already seeing that as a second very prominent language in most cities across America. And so even in Alaska, I was able to speak Spanish because I need to keep it up. I just need to keep my fluency up. I'm not 100% fluent, but I'm fluent enough. And so even in Alaska, I was able to speak Spanish with people that I walked by and identified as Latino. So I could keep that up. And so I think if you are going to learn a language and you want to practice it, and there's billboards or there's TV stations, and then I would pick Spanish. Now, if you're in Canada, for my Canadian listeners, and I got Canadian listeners, love you guys. French, then you might want to obviously learn French because there's a lot of French up on East Canada. To learn another language isn't that hard. One app I really like is the Duolingo. I'm not trying to do a commercial. They're not sponsors or anything, but I like the Duolingo. I don't know if that's my favorite app because I haven't tried a lot of them, but I like it's free. Okay. Free apps. Even though there's, if you're really worried about, your mind and you really want to learn another language, then I would really invest in a class, or I would go to a class, or do like a Rosetta Stone or something like that. But for those of you going, look, I want to just start working my brain. I want to start recognizing words. You should do it. And I don't mind you being older. I'm noticing right now, so my son is engaged to a beautiful, beautiful woman who's bilingual, and her mom is also bilingual, but she's more predominantly Spanish speaking. And so I get to add to my vocabulary by always asking, what's the word for this? What's the word for this? And I'm noticing I'm not retaining as well. So they've told me multiple times what a word is in Spanish, and I'm not retaining it. Now, one of the reasons for that, because a lot of us are like, Dahlia, I can't learn it. One of the reasons for that is when I learned Spanish and then I self-taught in medical school to do medical Spanish, it's because I saw the word. So you can't just have somebody tell you. If you're very good at auditory processing and listening comprehension, you could learn that way. But for those of you going, I ask, ¿cómo se dice spider in Espanol? How do you say spider in Spanish or whatever? And they tell you the word, I think it's ariaga. I forgot it. It's an arachnid. So if you know the Latin, I'm sure you could, figure out the Spanish. And I apologize, it's escaped me. But they've told me what a spider was. And I forgot, so I have to look at the word. All right, sorry, guys. I want to teach you guys something. I do not like not knowing something. So hold on a second. Let me just, spider in Spanish, because that's important, okay? Spider in Spanish is araña. Okay, I have to look at the word. Now that I see the word, I'll remember it. But even if you don't have a Duolingo app or these apps, Google Translate is great. You could go on that. I'm sure DuckDuckGo and the other ones do that. But think of some words you want to say. Te amo. Let's say you want to tell somebody you love them. Te amo. Or let's say you're going to want to practice it. And so if you do have a friend, and most of your friends will probably have some fluency in Spanish, tell them, look, I really want to work on my Spanish. I want to practice it. My son is trying to learn more Spanish and Hebrew. and he'll bounce words off. How do you say this, Mom? How do you say this? And what I do know, I tell him. What I don't know, I don't. One of my sons was singing a song, and he goes, Mom, what is I don't know in French? And it's je ne sais pas. I hope I pronounced that right. Je ne sais pas. And he's like, oh, okay, so that's what the song is about. And I don't know French. I don't speak French, but these are little things that I've been able to learn. And so they bounce things off of each other. And then practice, put the TV on, and try to watch some of these stations that are in different languages. They speak fast, so you want to watch. I recommend the kid programs. If you watch the pediatric programs. So I remember growing up, there was something called Via Allegra. Via Allegra means happy village and or happy town. And Via Allegra had both English and Spanish, which I really think, I remember speaking to my media buddies about that. I think that would be a great business to do, where you actually have news and programs in both English and Spanish, that where it allows somebody to very easily learn and pick up on the words. Narcos was fantastic. Tranquilo, jefe. You learn. So my son was picking up a lot of Spanish watching Narcos. But practice. It's worth it. It's really worth it. Plus, for those of you that live in some areas where all the billboards are in Spanish, you'll be able to understand what's around you. So.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
And we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So Lindsey Graham's unexpected passing from preliminary reports, aortic dissection, has left a vacancy that the South Carolina officials need to fill. It's something that happens very rapidly because of the political scene. And, even though everybody is still in shock, one suggestion that has come up is Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene Graham Nordone, to serve the remainder of the late senator's term. The governor, McMaster, is supposed to have, I guess, a press conference later today to discuss Trump took to social media to say that he suggested to McMaster that they choose his sister. And so my guess is it's happening. And, interestingly, why Trump is doing that is when Walmart decided to lower prices. I think Walmart and Target said they were going to lower prices. Trump said they did that at his behest, but they made the announcement. They were doing that, but they didn't credit him. So he had to, after the fact, say, that was at my behest. I asked them to do that. And it's ridiculous that it has to be this fight for credit. It's also ridiculous to not give credit where credit is due, but people don't believe that Trump actually made that suggestion. And because affordability is the big buzzword for the midterms and then the 2028 election, Trump wants to have the credit where credit's due. He got drug prices down. He got egg prices down. He got some grocery prices down. He wants to get the credit for getting housing prices down, et cetera. Even though he didn't sign the housing bill that did go into effect. That's another thing we need to talk about. But so he wants to get the credit. My guess is he made a suggestion. He wants to get the credit for the suggestion because it looks like people are not giving him credit where credit's due, which is something that I think is a real thorn in his side. And I told you, I think that's what's also steering a lot of his policy, such as the Trump accounts, et cetera. He wants to make sure there are things that are going to stick that can't get reversed in history, can't get reversed online, can't get reversed in the Senate, where there are things that he did that he thinks are really, really good, like the Abraham Accords, the Trump accounts, the drug prices coming down, so that there's a legacy of his presidency. It's interesting how polls are mixed, saying Trump is the best president we've ever had, to some saying he's the worst president they ever had. Why such a, why such a split? That's crazy. I understand why people are kind of mixed on Biden versus Jimmy Carter in terms of who was the worst president. But, how are you, that split on the best president to the worst president ever? It's so, if his sister does, it would be more of a, it would be a beautiful tribute. Trump said, I recommend to Governor Henry McMaster, Lindsey Graham's wonderful sister Darlene, to serve as an interim senator from the great state of South Carolina. This would be a fabulous tribute to Lindsey, who loved her dearly. Doubtful she would run for the full term. From what I understand, there's going to be in the election in November. They're going to then be electing his more permanent replacement. The law stipulates that Republicans will have to run in a snap primary election on August 11th, which is really coming up close. I know some people are thinking that Ralph Norman or Representatives Nancy Mace would be possible choices. Nancy Mace caused some social media stir because she posted from The Godfather, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. And some people are like, but wait a second, you didn't do well in the primary. Doubtful that they're going to want you back. But she would be in the running based on her experience. So we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, looking to Maine, Graham Plattner finally conceded as of Friday. So now Maine Democrats are scrambling to replace Plattner. I'm confused why they're scrambling, because didn't anybody identify he was a horrible candidate to begin with? You would think you always have a plan B. Don't you? I mean, look at how we do things already in the executive branch. We already have a plan in place. God forbid anything happens to the president, vice president, secretary of state. We have plans in place. We have the designated survivor. We have all that. But when it comes to other legislative areas, we don't. And after the Nazi tattoo, you would think they would have already had a backup plan. But no, anti-Semitism is now so popular, especially in the Democratic Party, the Socialist Democratic Party. Moderate Democrats they need to take control. They need to get a better grip on this, because it's just, even Ro Khanna blaming Israel for him having, I guess, an unplanned and official, I guess, trip, and he wanted to go to the West Bank, and without any organization, and they stopped him and said, no, you can't go past this, for your safety. It's just, Republicans are just exuding, or Democrats are just exuding their ignorance as it pertains to Israel and Middle East politics. And so you would think a Nazi tattoo would have been enough, but no, not in this day and age. And so now the main Democratic Party has, I guess, a week or two to come up with a new candidate. And they need to vet them properly. The big problem that the Democratic Socialists are having is they are running on, we are, new guys. We are, we're not established politicians. And which is very attractive. That's what got Trump elected, because they were like, we're tired of politicians. Let's just get somebody who, is like you or I, or has some common sense, will buck the system, buck the establishment, and get something done. The problem with that is, on the other side, as much as I like that idea of being a non-established politician and ingrained in all the corruption and lobbying and all that, on the other end, you don't have that vetting process. You don't have that. You've already been through the mill of being properly vetted. And so all these things then end up coming up in the past. You didn't see that with Rand Paul and Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell and Biden. You didn't really see all these skeletons in the closet come out because they have already been through the ringer in politics, that all of that stuff was already sifted through or worked out. I mean, look at the Clintons. I mean, Bill Clinton could probably run again, and nobody's going to care about the whole Monica Lewinsky thing. I mean, he won't run again for president, but he could probably run and do, and because it's already old news. Here's Grant Plattner, where they're like, oh yeah, you're an oyster farmer. Are you really a true oyster farmer? You've been doing that for decades. Yeah. And you don't subscribe to Nazism. Nobody vetted him. So now they don't want to make the same mistake, because the Susan Collins seat is a big one. Even though Susan Collins will sometimes, vote with the Democrats, it's still technically a Republican seat. So Democrats are planning according to ABC News, a 601 person party convention that'll be held July 25th, 2 days before the deadline. Okay, so the deadline is the 27th. The delegates will include 101 members from the state's party's central committee and 500 delegates from all of Maine's 16 counties. Voters will also have a say. Now, does that mean a socialist is going to get in? Or does it mean a moderate Democrat will be? I think there's a little bit of a tug and pull, because the Plattner platform was supported by Bernie Sanders, by Mamdani, and so now Maine, if they want to win, they might have to switch gears. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.